Okay. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to First Fridays with DWG CPA. This webinar is designed to provide value-added information for our clients. This is Daryl Groves, and I'm glad that you are able to join us today. We'll be recording today's webinar, and we'll make it available later for viewing on our website under the Client Center. The format of our webinars will be as follows. All participant lines will be muted during the presentation and unmuted during the Q&A session at the end. Questions can be raised during the presentation using the Q&A comment box at the bottom left of your screen. We'll make every effort to answer questions during the Q&A session. Any additional questions can be answered offline or will be answered offline. We'll also be using polling questions as a means to gather information from our audience. And as always, you're more than welcome to set up a one-on-one meeting to cover any additional questions or concerns that you may have regarding your tax, accounting, and other financial management needs. So our team, the DWG CPA team, is a full-service accounting firm. We provide tax, accounting, and audit solutions for small businesses, nonprofits, and individuals. Our primary goal is to save you time and money, and I'm so blessed and truly thankful to be working with a fabulous team of dedicated professionals that focus every day on providing the best service to our clients. Joe Martinez heads up our accounting team and works diligently to make sure that your financial statements are prepared accurately and timely. Wendy Pineda is our tax lead, and she is focused on coordinating client tax planning throughout the year and ensuring that our annual tax return filing process is run smoothly and efficiently. Simone Duncan and Emma Martinez are the frontline providing accounting and tax support for our team. And finally, Ellen Hughes is our firm administrator. She manages our accounting, payroll, insurance, and other items. So feel free to contact any one of us if you have any questions. For those of you that haven't yet subscribed, we offer a free monthly newsletter that features 4 to 5 brief articles each month that are designed to keep you updated year-round on tax updates and information you need to manage your business finances. It's amazing how many times that I've received a client question and been able to just refer them to an article on the newsletter that often it will explain the issue in plain English. So to subscribe to our newsletter, you just go to our website at dwgcpatx.com and select subscribe at the top right corner. And you'll receive an email asking you to confirm your subscription, and that's it. This will ensure that you stay up to date and may spark a question or two. And we're always here to help. Now, one of the articles we've had in the past, and a lot of people ask the question about why is the tax deadline this year on April 18th instead of the 17th, which is the Monday following the 15th. And just to this is probably, this was one of our prior articles where we just explained this, that Monday, April 17th is the holiday in Washington, D.C. for Emancipation Day. And that holiday is normally on April 16th, but if that holiday falls on a weekend, then it's celebrated on the following Monday. So since the tax deadline would have been on that Monday, then the tax deadline gets pushed out another day. So everyone has another couple of days to get their taxes done. If you need help, let us know. So we also are active on social media. You can get more frequent updates by liking our page on Facebook, following us on Twitter, or by connecting via LinkedIn. So today we are honored to have as our guest presenter, Jonte Archer. Jonte is the founder, CEO, and agent at J. Archer Insurance Group, which was founded in 2009. Jonte is a graduate of the University of Houston and received her law degree from Pepperdine. She holds a general lines agent license in Texas and 22 additional states. Jonte is also founder and CEO of She is a CEO, which is a 501c nonprofit. Welcome and good morning, Jonte.
Good morning, Daryl. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
So before you get into the insurance line, on the She is a CEO nonprofit, can you tell us a little bit about that?
I can. She's the CEO is a nonprofit organization. It was founded to encourage young girls to become entrepreneurs, and the foundation provides entrepreneurship programs as well as character building programs. So we're actually from the 18th to the 22nd, we're doing our first academy at Missouri City Middle School, and we're excited about that.
Oh, okay. Well, congratulations. That sounds exciting. It's
Thank
always, yeah, you're welcome. So, so no, today you're going to give us a lesson on what we need to know as small business owners on insurance.
Absolutely, absolutely. I apologize for little technical difficulties.
No worries. Yeah, that's insurance is always one of those things that you feel like you have to have, but you have no choice. But I think we thought that this would be a good topic because it just it's something that impacts most small businesses, if not all. And so it's just better to have more information.
Absolutely. Okay, I think I got it together over here. I apologize.
No
Uh,
worries.
so, as Daryl said before, I'm Jonte Archer, and I would be remiss if I didn't um, talk about our business development manager who is on the line as well. Richard Miles is our business development manager. He's a client liaison and also an agent. He has over 25 years of experience working in the public school system for 13 years. And prior to coming over to Archer, he was vice president of business development at Legal Watch, and that's a risk mitigation training company for 8 years. So he is a vital part of our organization, and him and I are usually a very great tag team when we're working with our business clients. I wanted to welcome him today as well. So we'll go ahead and get started. A little bit about what we're going to be talking about today is the keys to insurance success, understanding the certificate of insurance and what it's not, commercial insurance overview and some basic terms. I'm going to really try to speak from a very elementary level, assuming that most of you don't have an insurance background. So let me know if I do get to some topics that are a little over your head and I need to come back down a notch. We're going to talk about the workflow and submission checklist. And those are the things that we need from our clients in order to successfully rate and quote your insurance. We're also going to talk about an insurance declarations page versus what a COI is, or a certificate of insurance. And then we're going to talk about some common endorsements that are on some business insurance policies. And finally, we're going to talk about some common misconceptions of commercial insurance. And these all stem from our clients. We deal with hundreds of business owners. And so we're using some of the most common misconceptions that are brought to us to share with you guys.
Yeah. Well, Jonte, earlier I mentioned that there's most of us are impacted by insurance, but is there a certain size that I have to be to start looking for insurance?
No, absolutely not. And what we recommend is that at the very beginning, when you're starting your business, that you make sure that insurance is an integral part of your business plan. Understanding what the cost of insurance and the cost of doing business really has to take insurance into consideration. You definitely don't want to start a business and be shut down by one lawsuit.
All right. Thank you.
So I see a poll is going up. Um, And so can you tell us really quickly what your current relationship is with insurance? And you're just going to click the button and let us know. And then we'll take that poll really quickly.
I think we have to open that poll. There we go. Should be open now.
Okay. Okay. Okay, awesome. So we're split 60%. Oh well, it went back to 50-50. Half of you love insurance and half of you only have it because it's required. Well, that's good to know. And I asked that primarily because that's very important to us in insurance to find out um, where our clients are in terms of how they feel about insurance. So let's see, how do okay, I take over.
Oh,
Okay. Now how would I get out of the poll and get back?
I'll
Okay,
pull it back up, Jonte, and then you can take over as presenter.
perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so I asked that question because there are really three keys to insurance success for us as agents. We believe that clients should value, understand, and afford and be able to afford the insurance that they have. And since you guys are split, let me clearly identify what value means. Value means that you value the security and the benefits that an insurance policy provides, and you value the relationship that you have with your broker. Many of my clients have a relationship with me like they have with their doctor or their lawyer. They trust that when I make recommendations, that it's true and tried, and we work together to make sure that we're coming up with the best solutions for the company. Our clients pay insurance and value insurance as they do their homeowners insurance or their car note or their mortgage bill. So it's a priority to them. We also need you to understand your insurance. So when you take the first step is that you guys are here, trying to understand what your coverages are, your limits, exclusion, and understand the process so that we can better work together. And then finally, that you can afford the insurance. We get a lot of small business contractors that get these very large contracts and they bid and they win these contracts, but they never took into consideration that the insurance for this very large contract and their requirements is $100,000. So if you're bidding $250,000 on a project and your insurance is half of that, then you've definitely underbid that project. So we want to make sure that you can afford the insurance that you need. And that really makes the best client for us. So I've talked about the value, understanding, and affording insurance that we need our clients to have. Let's talk about a little bit what you should expect from your agent. We are different than most agencies, and I find that most of our clients come to us from other agents having no clue as to what the insurance is. They just say, hey, this is what I do, and they got a quote, and they've been paying it for the last 5 or 6 years. So we make sure that we focus on educating our clients, that we're accessible. Our clients can call us at any day and any time. We want to make sure that you understand that you are a priority to us. We put your needs first. A lot of agents, they're based on premium. We understand that in order for you to be a client that renews with us year after year, we've got to keep those premiums low. We can't worry about trying to make the most money the first year out of the gate. We want to make sure that premiums are consistent, and wherever we can save you money, we do. Another key factor that you should expect is that your agent understands your business. I can't tell you how many clients come to us and they say, oh, well, we do carpentry. But then we find out they also haul gravel and they also clean storage tanks. Those are different businesses. We make sure that we understand your business so that you're not being rated for something, and at the end of the day, you're not covered. We want to understand contract requirements. Anytime you get a contract, We ask for those to come over to us so we can read that in detail and make sure that you have exactly what's required of you. Market accessibility. We have access to hundreds of carriers. If you're with a captive agent or you're with an agent that only markets to a few carriers, you're doing yourself a disservice. You need to make sure you're with someone that can shop the market as a whole, that knows what's going on in the market. So when they see a quote for you coming down the pipeline, they know immediately whether that rate's too high or if it's in the ballpark of what the market is speaking to us on. Strategic partners. We have made strategic partners with very large international firms. In fact, the largest in the world. We are partners with Willis Towers Watson and Arthur J. Gallagher. So we make sure that we will never, that you will never outgrow us. So no matter how large you get, we have solutions to make sure that you're covered. And that's what being a good agent is predicting that our clients will grow and that your success will be our success. Knowledgeable CSR. We have a team of agents and CSRs in our office. We take impeccable notes. Our strategy is to make sure that anyone who picks up your file or answers that call can service you as though they are your agent. We do semi-annual and annual insurance reviews to make sure that we're still on target with what we projected from the beginning of the year, and we can readdress any needs or concerns at that time. You have ongoing support, and then you trust us. Now, this is the big factor for us. Our clients ask us all the time, why do we need certain information? Why are we asking for this? You have to trust that the information that we're requesting, we're trying to make sure that you are getting the best rate, you're being covered for all of your insurance needs, and the clients that trust us and have that really trusted advisor relationships are the ones that grow at an impeccable rate, a crazy rate. We see that they start to do things that keep the bottom line in mind, they keep risk management in order, and have the lowest amount of claims. And setting expectations is one of those things that we do in the beginning. We make sure that you understand how long it's going to take for us to turn around a quote, how long it's going to take for us to get COIs out to you, what our process is like. All of that's uncovered in the beginning phases so that you understand what we expect from you and what you can expect from us. And going back to what we talked about, the trust and genuine relationship, that's on the same lines. We make sure that we explain your coverages in a way that you can understand, and your renewals are timely. So those are just some of the minimal requirements that all of our agents and all of our CSRs are required to provide to all of our clients. So if you don't have an agent that's doing that, it may be time for you to look elsewhere.
Jonte, you mentioned earlier that sometimes businesses are doing things that maybe on their last renewal you didn't have the information on. I guess it works the opposite way too, where maybe at one point you were hauling gravel, and now you're no longer doing that, and so that contact or that good relationship helps to make sure that type of information is communicated, right?
Absolutely, and that goes on a personal level too, because we do personal insurance as well, and we're very big in the community. I'll run into my clients sometimes, and I'll say, "Oh, you got a new car, huh?" I don't think that's on the policy. So right. When I go back and talk about genuine relationships, it's also because we're a part of our client's business a lot of times. We just left a grand opening for the Houston Furniture Bank, which is one of our clients, and in doing that, we saw that brand new beautiful building had some things in it that we hadn't contemplated. So having that relationship with your clients is vital for us, and we make it a priority to support our clients in anything that they're doing as well. Okay, so this is a big thing. What factors affect insurance premiums and favorable underwriting? So when clients come to us, we ask for a lot of information. We're asking you to gather prior policies. We want to know how long you've been in business. We're asking for EIN, social, just a gamut of information. And a lot of our clients will come to us and say, Why do you need all that? Well, the primary reason is because there are several factors that affect your insurance premiums, and no two companies or people are alike when it comes to underwriting. So let's go down the list. So your industry is a huge factor that change your rating. So are our tower workers versus a law firm? Totally different premium structures and algorithms that the underwriters use. How many years you've been in business and your business experience is a rating factor. Claims and lost runs. And if you don't know what lost runs is, it's basically your claims history. And we request these from every carrier that you've had over the last 5 years. So when we talk about staying with the same carrier to get more favorable rating, that's one of the reasons, because you've got to track down those lost runs over the last 5 years when you start a new policy. Insurance history, lapses in coverage. Carriers also look at, have you had consistent insurance over a period of time? Are you a late payer? How many intents to cancel have you had? All of those are a factor. Schedule of hazards and operations. This goes back to what we were talking about earlier, Daryl, when we talked about what you're doing. So when I say, what do you do? I'm not asking for a pitch. I'm not asking you to sell me on your amazing business. I'm asking all of the things that you do that a carrier needs to contemplate and factor in as risk. So if you are on the other side and you're thinking of yourself as the carrier, what would I want to know about what this person is doing? Are they manufacturing products? Are they shipping under their own label? Or are they getting these over from China? Because if you're getting stuff shipped from overseas, they're now going to classify you as a manufacturer. So all of these things provide us more information so that we can go and get you the best coverage that you need.
So along those lines, if someone has a hazard that they haven't reported to you in their insurance, what impact could that have on them?
It can have a devastating impact. You can have a claim doing exactly that thing that you left off of the policy, and you won't be covered. They have every right not to cover you if they have not contemplated that risk. So in doing so, you had a piece of paper that meant absolutely nothing.
Right.
And then if you have things that you used to do, take them off the website. There's no sense in having things on your website to make your business seem bigger. If you do two things really well, a carrier loves that. If you do one thing and you're superior at it, carriers love that. But if you have a million different things that you have on your website that you do and you don't really do them, you're putting that out there for the world to see, carriers go to your websites. They will see what you do and they will rate you as this multi-purpose business, and your rates will be higher. Mm-hmm. Your revenues and sales. Now, I know it's hard sometimes when you're in business and we go out into the world and we tell people that we're very successful, and that's relative to individuals. So you can say, hey, I'm really successful, but I make $250,000 a year. I'm not judging. I'm just going to tell you that your revenues are probably one of the most significant factors in your rating and premiums. So the lower your premiums are, that means that you're doing a smaller amount of work in that area. That means that your premiums will be lower. The more revenues you report, the higher your premium, because evidently you are doing more of that operation. And so the insurance carrier has to factor that as being a primary reason for their risk. Some carriers will use payroll as opposed to revenue. So if you're in a payroll heavy business where your workers are doing the majority of the work, then they may base it on payroll as opposed to revenues. We talked about payment history, even your address location. We had a situation where a truck driver, their rate went up about $15,000 just because they relocated their office. And so where you're located changes your premiums as well. If you own buildings or property, the year of construction and the type of construction of that building is a factor. Your content and your business personal property, the values of that is very much a factor if you want those contents to be covered. Endorsements. A lot of times contractors will come to us and we'll speak to them about endorsements. Hey, if you get a contract that requires you to have these specific endorsements, they cost money. They're not free. Some range from $100 to $2,500. So endorsement that you need as a requirement, whether it's additional insureds or waivers of subrogation, some of those cost money and can affect your premiums. Drivers. This is a huge one. If you're not vetting your drivers and making sure that they don't have tickets and accidents or suspended licenses, you're doing yourself a disservice. Because when we pull those reports, that is a major factor if you're insuring vehicles or you're in the trucking industry. We talked about this, multiple businesses across similar industries. I have trucking companies that one is Hotshot, another one is a limo service, and then they own a third company that does contracting buses for school districts. Well, because those are all vehicle and livery type, and livery just means that you have folks, live folks, public transportation sort of risk. When they're similar in nature, carriers may be afraid to cover you because they may feel like you could switch those vehicles out per policy and kind of make it work to your favor. So your rates and premiums could be astronomical if they find out that you have multiple businesses in similar industries. Tenant roles. If you are an owner of a commercial building that has multiple tenants, the type of tenants you have actually affects your ratings. So if you have a paint company like Sherwin-Williams, guess what? You have a higher risk of hazard because those things are flammable. And so they're going to want to make sure that you have sprinklers and cameras and all different types of security features that could affect your premium. And that's one thing that I don't have here, but that's a huge factor. They want to know what you're doing to mitigate your risk. Do you have cameras? Do you have, are you holding money on site for long periods of time? How late are you open? All of those things are factored. And then, of course, your requested coverages and limits. Those people who are requesting a $5 million umbrella versus a $1 million, of course, there's going to be a difference in premium there. The certificate of liability insurance, and I don't know if you guys can see this. You may have to make it a little bigger. And I don't know how many of you are familiar. I probably should have took a poll here. But the certificate of liability insurance basically outlines the coverages that you have and the limits. It gives the policy numbers, the carriers, and then you may have some details in this section. Can you guys see my pointer by any chance, Daryl?
Can't see it yet. Have you?
Yeah. Can I show the pointer by any?
Yeah, if you clicked on it at the top right of the screen.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Click on it and keep it on. There you go.
Okay, perfect. So here in this box, you see this is the commercial liability section. So it's checking off that you do have commercial liability. This A here pertains to the A that's here. And it basically tells us what carrier that is. So let's say I had another A here. That would mean we have the same carrier for a different line of coverage. So A here is attained for the commercial general liability. These two wordings is, I believe this is per occurrence. So when you have a per occurrence policy, it's just basically saying that per incident that you have, they will pay out up to $1 million. Your aggregate on this policy is $2 million. And that's, like I said, the aggregate. So you can have multiple claims that are $100,000, $1,000, as long as they don't go up to any one claim that's over $1 million. And then, of course, in any given year, which is per occurrence, it should not exceed $2 million here. And then you guys can probably not see this, but like if you're going to have a copy of the presentation, so you'll be able to go back and look at this. But this basically says claims made. The difference between a claims made policy and a per occurrence policy is basically in a per occurrence policy, this policy, you could be 3 years from now. This policy will pay out if someone comes and sues you and said, hey, in 2015, I slipped and fell and you owe me $1 million. This policy will still pay out. If you have a claims made policy and it's 2017, you no longer have this policy will not pay out for that 2015 because it would have had to be made during the term of that policy. Now, if you continue to renew that same policy, then it will provide coverage. So those are the difference with that.
So let me clarify there. So when a claim's made policy, the claim has to be made during the policy period, or is it vice versa?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
it has to be made during the policy period unless you continue to renew that same policy. And each time you renew that policy, they'll keep track of the years prior in that future policy. But once those policies go away and you cancel, you are not covered unless you have a per occurrence policy.
So is it better to have a claims made or a claims occurrence?
It's better to have a per occurrence, yes, because a per occurrence, it doesn't matter when you file. If you had coverage at the time that occurrence happened, it will still pay out even if it's 2 years later.
Ah, okay.
Longest
Which one costs more?
Yeah, per occurrence costs more.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
And so the next one is the auto. And again, you can probably barely see this, but it's checked on any auto. Any auto is the most extensive coverage that you can get on an auto policy. This basically means any automobile you hop into, you're covered for your business. Any automobile your employees hop into, they're covered. You'll have some other ones that'll say scheduled autos, which means only the scheduled autos on that policy are covered. You'll have some that say hired and non-owned, which just basically means if you rent or hire vehicles, those vehicles are covered. So it'll check the multiples, but any auto will cover all of those other classifications as well. This policy also has an umbrella, and that's what this line is. I believe this is a $5 million umbrella, and then a workers' comp, which is statutory at $1 million. So this is the basic reading of a certificate of liability. Here is a section where if you have a contract, they may ask for specific wording. And what I try to alert my clients to is the fact we just can't add anything that your contractor is saying to add. It has to correspond to what's actually in your policy. So if they're asking for waivers of subrogation or blanket additional insureds, that has to actually be a part of your policy with those endorsements, and then we can add that specific language here. Here is where the certificate holder name and address will go, and they will get notice anytime there's a notice of cancellation or the policy expires. And so that's why a lot of times you guys will get alerted if a contractor comes to you saying, hey, I need an updated certificate of insurance. Our policy is to make sure that we have a certificate list if you have a large number of certificate holders, and that we can send those out at renewal. We send you a list and say, hey, this is your list from last year. Please let us know if these are still folks that you're contracting with or not. And we'll get those out. So general liability is your liability to third parties. So it basically covers folks that come onto your premises. They may slip and fall or hurt themselves. It's going to cover that bodily injury. It also covers your products and completed operations. So it takes that into consideration as well. General liability also, and this is the most important factor, covers the cost of your legal defense if you're sued for any covered claims or any settlement that comes out of that suit. One of the things my clients argue with me sometimes about is the fact that I'm not going to get sued, and if I get sued, it's going to be frivolous. Well, even frivolous lawsuits have to be defended. And so you can spend your time in court and paying money to defend yourself against frivolous lawsuits, or you can let your insurance do it. I recommend the latter. So this is a sample declarations page, and I would like to make it clear that there is a clear difference between this and the certificate of insurance. So when we ask clients for their declarations pages from their current policies, do not send us the certificate of insurance. They are not the same. The declarations page provides us a little more information than that certificate of insurance does. It's going to provide us the premium. It's going to provide us any deductibles. It's going to also let us know, because that certificate may have been completed incorrectly. That's a manual process. That information is manually entered. So it may say that it's a claims made, and I look on your policy declarations and see that it's per occurrence. It's going to let us know if all that information is true that is on that certificate of insurance. It's going to let us know what coverages you decline. It's going to let us know all those other limits that may not necessarily have been on the policy. And then again, it lets us know the premium of that policy. Declarations pages can be more than one page. And so the second and third pages may show us your schedule of hazards, which again is everything that you do, all of your operations. So when we look at that, we can see if you're actually being covered for the things that you actually do. And we can go over this more on a one-on-one basis. If you guys have your declarations pages and you want to talk about them, we can go over these in more depth. Some of the things that general liability covers: injuries on your property, such as slip and falls, like we talked about, bodily injury to third parties caused by your work or your employees' activities. It covers liabilities of others that you assume under contracts, bodily injury or damage to another's property arising from a defect in your product. It covers libel, slander, or business disparagement. It also covers copyright infringement in your advertisement. So a lot of things that people don't know that general liability covers, it does. Now, it does have limitations. It is limited to your premises, your operations, your products, or completed operations. And when I say operations, that's anything that you're working on or off of your premises. And then completed operations is a big deal. So if you are a artisan contractor, such as a plumber, when you walk away from that job, a year later, someone can come back and say, hey, that work that you did, a pipe burst and caused all of this damage to my property and to people. Someone slipped and hurt themselves. And so your general liability will cover that as well. Commercial property, I mean, it's self-explanatory. It's basically your physical property, the contents within the walls of somewhere you're renting, or the contents and the building itself if you own the building. Business auto, it's covering the autos that you either schedule on the policy. It can even cover physical damage coverage. But again, when we talked about that any auto symbol, that's really what you want. It is more expensive than the other coverages, but you want to make sure that any vehicle that you get into is pretty much covered on a commercial auto policy.
So Jonte, you know, a lot of small business owners are working in virtual offices, or they work remotely, or they have employees that might work remotely. How does that impact their insurance coverages, say the workers' comp or the commercial liability that you were mentioning?
Right. So again, it's just about letting the carrier know that those workers are remotely, providing the address. Are they office workers? If they're office workers, it's going to treat them just like any other office worker if they're staying in. But if they're working remotely, but they're climbing towers, then again, that's a different factor. So as long as we know exactly what they're doing and where they're located, the carriers have already contemplated what that risk factor will be if they're remote and exactly what they're doing in that remote location.
Okay.
I'm going to skip through these really quickly. And like I said, any of you can call me and we can go over this in greater detail. But inland marine policies and equipment floaters are just, they're tools, they're things that move that you use in business. So a lot of times if you're, let's say an IT person and you use these very high tech type of equipment and tools, we ask that you schedule those individual pieces on an equipment floater or an inland marine policy so that you can be covered. Going back to my client, who the furniture bank, they have these huge forklifts and things like that within their premises, and we cover those on an equipment floater as well. Builder's risk, this would be if you're in the course of building a structure. A lot of times the contractor will provide this coverage, but sometimes our clients opt to get this themselves. Pollution coverage, if you're in an industry where pollution is a factor, or if you're going on a site where pollutants or chemicals are used, they will often require a pollution policy. Professional liability. It's important that you know that the general liability policy is not a professional liability policy. And when I say professional, if you're in an industry where you're required to have a license or you have certain standards or CEs that you have to complete, a lot of times they will require a professional liability policy, sometimes in the forms of an error omissions policy, but they're pretty much the same. Real estate agents, doctors, lawyers, architects, all of those types of industries are required to have professional liability policies on top of the general liability policy. Remember, general liability is based on premises and a lot of times products. Professional is based on your line of work. If someone is relying on your fiduciary responsibility to advise them in a capacity, that's generally when professional liability will be required, or should. I mean, most industries do require that you have it. And then the commercial umbrella. The commercial umbrella is an extension of the liability that you have on the general liability, the auto, and the workers' comp policies. So if you need more coverage than the base coverage that your policies provide, then you can get an umbrella policy to go on top of those policies. So if you had a $2 million aggregate on the general liability, and let's say your contract requires $5 million, then we can go get a commercial umbrella that will extend that policy for $3 million. Workers' compensation. Just like we spoke of before, general liability does not cover employees. It covers the liability portion of what they do to third parties. But as far as your employees being hurt in their role, workers' compensation is the only coverage that can provide relief for you in the case of a suit. And it's a non-fault type of policy. They don't have to prove that they were hurt or you were liable. They just have to file that claim and they will have coverage. It's not mandatory in Texas, but if you do have contracts with the city or the government, they may require you to have workers' compensation in place. As we talked about earlier, there's some standard requirements and endorsements that certain contracts require you to have, waivers of subrogation, blanket additional insured endorsements. These are all endorsements that will give the contractor some coverage on your policy. Basically, you're essentially adding them to the policy so that they are protected within your policy as well. Really quickly, data gathering and workflow. So we talked about on a very basic level what those other coverages were. There's so many more insurance policies that you can get to protect yourself in certain industries. But for us, the most important part of getting you a quote and getting you something that will protect your business is to have the information that we request from you. A lot of folks come to us and they say, well, I didn't give all this to my last agent. Well, for us, it's important that when we talked about earlier what affects your premium and underwriting, if we don't have this information, it's guesswork. So the things that you're doing in your business, if you don't provide that to us, there's probably a huge probability that you're overpaying for your insurance. So we ask for your full legal name and DBA name, your addresses of all your locations, including a mailing address, square footage of leased or owned building space, a complete description of every product, work, or service that you perform. We want to go through your website and make sure it's matching what those descriptions are you giving us, your EIN, business experience. We want to know your structure, who are your partners, how much of their business do they have. Talk to us about your current and projected annual revenues, whether they're going up and down. What are you anticipating over the next year? Sometimes we ask for what are your current projects that you're working on. Your payroll. We need 3 to 5 years of lost runs or claims history. Now, if you don't have insurance in place, that's not a requirement. But again, if you've had insurance over the last 3 to 5 years, we're going to need to get those lost runs from those carriers. And our underwriters are going to require that. We're going to need your current declarations page. We get a lot of clients that come to us and they scratch out, the premium or certain things on the declarations pages. It's not for us to try to work the numbers for you. It really is to see if you come to us and say that premium says $333 for an annual premium for professional liability and it's with a great carrier like Travelers, we're going to pretty much advise you to stay there because we know what those types of carriers provide. And we also know that that's a great premium for professional liability. So it's not to kind of play with the numbers. It's really to make sure that we're not wasting each other's time and that we're giving you the best advice available. Contract requirements. Sometimes you're in an industry where supplemental applications are required. And that just simply means that the basic information that we normally get won't really do us justice if you're, like I said, in the tower industry or you're manufacturing a unique product. So we'll probably need some additional information on the application. All of the driver's names, driver's license, date of birth, building values, values of any business personal property, value of any owned or leased equipment that needs to go on a schedule, and then your current coverages, carrier, and premium. If you have a certificate holder list, we'd like to see that. And then any required filings or endorsements. I can't tell you how many times we write a policy and then they come back to us and say, hey, we needed a blanket additional insured or we needed a waiver, because when we talked about contracts, they didn't inform us that they had any contracts in the works that required that. So a lot of stuff, but in business, we make the time for the things that are important. And to us, insurance should be a top priority of small businesses. So I'm going to skip through these because this kind of gives you specifically in different policies what we would need to gather, and you guys can go through that on your own time. I just want to go over some common misconceptions really quickly. Business financial information and details are not necessary for quoting. Absolutely false. We need to understand your financials. That's really the premise of your premiums. So a lot of people come to us and say, hey, you don't need this information. This is not your business. But in order to protect your business, it does have to be our business. An umbrella is a standalone policy. It is not. You can't call me and say, hey, Jonte, I need an umbrella, and you have no other coverages. You have to have underlying liability coverages for that umbrella to sit on top of. A policy application information is not auditable. false, your carrier can come back at the end of the year, audit that information you gave us. You said you were making 50,000 a year, you made $1 million. Yeah, they want their money for that $750,000 or that $950,000 you left out. So they can audit you and come back and get that premium, or in the case if you have a claim, they can choose to deny that claim altogether. We talked about general liability not covering professional exposures. General liability does not cover property. Commercial auto covers personal use of a vehicle. It does not. Unless we specifically endorse that policy, it will not cover you driving that vehicle for personal use. Workers' comp is not required in Texas. We already talked about that. And then general liability, not protecting you from actions brought by employees. Only workers' comp can protect you against those claims. And then all endorsements are free. Some are, but most aren't. So just be aware that there could be a monetary value associated with that.
So
this is the last poll before we wrap up.
Let me go ahead and open the poll. And
Okay.
then how well do you know your current agent? So if you guys can go ahead and
Okay.
okay, it's coming in. Oh, I didn't expect it to go that way.
Right. So 60% of you said we speak every now and then or as I need something. 20% of you said I don't have an agent. I shop all my insurance myself. And then 20% of you said who?
right.
So what that basically tells me is that it's time for you to either reestablish your relationship with an agent or go get a better one or go get one for the first time. If you're shopping yourself, 9 times out of 10, you're doing yourself a disservice, as there are relationships that we have with carriers. There are just the knowledge that we have underlying to protect you in all areas. So I think in terms of having an agent, that's one of the key goals you should have with your insurance is having a great relationship with your agent. I don't know any of my clients who don't know who I am and don't know my name and can't say that we don't have a great relationship, because that's a priority to myself, Richard, and all of the agents at Archer. So I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. We are available at any time for complimentary reviews. We can set up a meeting to come to your office, or you can come to ours. You can email us and let us know, hey, here's my policy. Take a look. Is it good? Is it not? Should I be doing something different? We're here to help. And we're just happy that you guys logged in, because like I said, this is the first step to having a better relationship with insurance.
So if someone contacts you and they're in one of the states that's not part of the 22 that you're licensed in, what do you do there? Do you just you have a referral list of others in that state, or how do you?
No, we're licensed in all the major states, and in the states that we're not licensed in, we can get a license. It takes a day or so for us to get a license in another state. So we're pretty flexible in that area. We want to be available and accessible for all of our clients, so we can grow as we need to.
Okay, great. And I was going to ask you earlier about why you wanted to, or why you need so much information. I mean, what it looks like, it's as much as you need for a loan.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
But I think you answered that if you're not providing all of that information, sometimes that could drive up the cost of your insurance, because your agent doesn't have all of the information they need to get you the best coverage.
Right. And some of our clients come to us with policies that they said, well, my agents never asked me about my revenues. And I said, well, they're basing it on something. So they either guessed and put a random number to get you a policy, which probably means you're at risk if you have a claim because they're going to audit and determine if that revenue amount is correct. So a lot of times when clients push back and say, well, why do you need that? Some agents will literally guess. They'll say, oh, they're probably making 100,000, they're probably making 50,000 to get them a cheap policy, to get them insured, not realizing what a disservice that's doing to the client.
All right. Well, I know we have some time for a few questions, and I think what we wanted to do is to unmute in this section to see if there's anybody that wanted to ask a question. We'll give a couple of, give some time for that. I think we've answered most of the questions that have been submitted. So, as you mentioned on your prior slide, if there are questions that come after this, you can be reached. Your website is Archer Insurance or ArcherINSGroup.com, and we will have this this webinar online. So, Jonte and Richard, thank you for this presentation, and we really appreciate it, and and definitely we appreciate the attention of our participants. So next month we will have our webinar on the first Friday as usual. It'll be on May 5th, and we haven't developed the topic yet for that workshop, but we'll have it soon. And thank you all for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Okay. Have a great day and enjoy the weekend.
Take care.